Hello and welcome to the what we're going to call the first October cybersecurity meetup. We want to welcome you, and we have a special guest today, Nicole Unroe from our cybersecurity awareness training partner, Breach Secure Now. We'll hear from her in a little bit, but as always, these meetups are designed to help you understand what is going on in technology and cybersecurity and all things scary out there on the interwebs. It's very casual. We just want to have conversations and we want to answer any questions that you might have. So feel free to use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen down there and enter questions. We'll answer them as we go or at the end. We like to keep the meetup to about 30 minutes because we know your time is valuable. However, if there are questions or further comments after that, we'll stick around as long as we can to answer those. If we don't get to them, we'll be sure to get back to you via email and respond to your questions that we can't get to. Also, this meeting is being recorded, and you will get a link to the recording sometime later or probably early next week. So today we are going to be talking about Cybersecurity Awareness Month, which is what starts tomorrow, October 1st. It used to be called National Cybersecurity Awareness Month when it was just a United States thing, but now nations around the world, our partners in Europe and Canada, also have October set aside as Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And it's really just a way to bring awareness to the issues around cybersecurity. And since that's Nicole's specialty, we are going to invite her to talk about that and have a conversation around it. But before we get to that, as always, we wanted to give you some updates on some timely things that are going on out there in the cyber security realm and cyber criminal realm. First and foremost, there was an alert that was issued by the FBI recently talking about something called a denial of service attack. And this is an old school hacker trick. And the idea behind it is that they would bombard a website with so much traffic that the website would either come to a halt or go into very, very slow performance. But there have been a number of innovations and tools that prevented that from happening. But now the bad guys are using it again because so much of the things that we rely on now have become cloud-based and are hosted. So they see it as an opportunity not to get ransom from you and I, but from those companies that are hosting those services. And recently there was an attack on a company called bandwidth.com that provides a lot of services for hosted voice over IP providers. So a lot of folks lost their ability to use their phones for a little bit. I bring it up only because we can expect more of this to be happening, especially for smaller hosting providers that may not have the sophistication of an IBM or Microsoft or Google to prevent these kind of attacks. So just be aware that it's a possibility. And if you start to feel like maybe your hosting site isn't working up to par, that may be what you're experiencing. On another front, the federal government has been trying very hard to crack down on cyber criminals and in particular ransomware payments. So recently, the Treasury Department started issuing sanctions against cyber or cryptocurrency exchanges. These are places where cyber criminals can transact business using things like Bitcoin or Ethereum without having to deal with banking laws. And it's been very successful for them. And a lot of people will actually say that the ransomware problem wouldn't have gotten as bad as it has gotten if it wasn't for the fact that cryptocurrency makes it easy for people to get paid and for those people that have gotten paid to disappear without a trace. So to fight that, the Treasury Department is starting to identify cryptocurrency exchanges, these places where money or cryptocurrency goes from one person to another. These exchanges that are notable for their interactions with cyber criminals, and they're starting to sanction them. They did that last week to one called Suex, which means that they can't Americans can't use them anymore, and they're going to be going after others. That just means that it's going to be harder if you do get hit with ransomware and you have no choice to pay, but to pay for the ransom to get your data back, that it's going to be more and more difficult to do that, which is one of the reasons cybersecurity awareness is such a critical part of the world that we live in. And in addition, there is legislation that's making its way through Congress right now, which will mandate that any business will have to report a cyber breach or cyber incident within 24 hours of it happening, or face fines. And more importantly, they are putting companies like ours, managed service providers and managed security service providers, on the hook for reporting that. So we will be obligated, regardless of what our clients want, to report those breaches to the feds. So with that said, we don't want breaches to happen. And the best way to prevent them from happening, and you've heard us talk about this before, is education. The human firewall, that person that gets that email that's suspicious or that goes to a website that doesn't look right, they're the ones that need to do the work. So Nicole, let's get into the training side of this.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first off, thank you for having me today. I'm excited to talk cybersecurity and Cybersecurity Awareness Month with you. But yeah, just to dive right in, security awareness training is so important. This has been important all along, but since COVID and, everybody's shifting to remote work, the threat landscape has increased dramatically. That's not slowing down. We see different threats arising every single day. They're going to keep happening. Things will change. As mentioned with the denial of service attacks and the cryptocurrency being monitored more closely, things are going to keep changing. Ransomware payments will keep changing, but the first line of defense is definitely on the human side. So we often hear, humans are the weakest link, employees are the weakest link in the cybersecurity chain. That is true, but they can also be the strongest defense in the cybersecurity world as well. So that's why cybersecurity awareness training is so important. Um, Employees have to understand the threats. They have to know what's out there. They have to be educated. And not only once, annual training is great. It covers some of the more broad cybersecurity topics like phishing and ransomware. But these threats emerge every single day. They change all the time, as I mentioned. So, really staying updated with training, going through training on a more continuous basis, and um, kind of testing knowledge on training as well. So, simulated phishing is something that we consider one of the most important parts of an ongoing training program. Really testing employees' knowledge. Are they understanding what they're learning? Are they able to spot a phishing simulation or a real phishing attack in the future? So there's a lot to unpack here, I think. Anyone
Mhm.
have anything to add?
Nicole, maybe you can tell how your training is delivered. What's
Sure.
what's the expectation of training over a year for a particular employee?
Yeah, absolutely. So, with our training program, we do have annual training, as I mentioned, that covers more of the broad training topics. That's about a 45-minute to 1 hour class. And this is all done through a portal online. So, these are video-based classes and they're case study based as well. So, a common objective with cybersecurity awareness training is really my employees don't want to take it. It's boring. I don't have time. This makes it really simple. They can log in, they can save their work, come back at another time. It's super easy for them to access the training, but also with the case study based approach on our annual training, it does keep them engaged. It's very current events, topics that they can relate to. It's things that actually happen. So, you know, Betty the bookkeeper falls for an invoice scam. She pays this invoice that she thought was due. So it's things that could happen in their day to day. That's our annual training class. And then, as I mentioned, continuous training. So we also do weekly trainings as well. This is something that we do to provide ongoing relevant information to employees. So we watch for current threats, changes in the threat landscape, and once we have that, we build a weekly training that employees are sent directly in their inbox every single week. It's under 3 minutes a week of training. All they have to do is watch that video and then take a short quiz, answer that quiz, and they get their score. And that's all wrapped into something we call our employee secure score. So with that, it's a way to keep employees engaged. It assigns them something that's very similar to a FICO credit score. It's their security strength score. So the more training classes they take, they get points. If they fall for a simulated phishing email, they would lose points. Once they acknowledge their policies and procedures, which is another very important component in cybersecurity awareness, they get points for that. So it kind of helps employees compete. There's a leaderboard. They're up against each other to see who's more secure. But it's a fun way to keep employees engaged and really help them drive security awareness in their organization as well.
Well, I got to say, I agree with you in terms of the gamification of it, because I was getting a lot of needling internally because I wasn't doing the micro training. So I was falling to the bottom of the pack. And so now I've made it a point to go back and do a bunch of them to get my ESS up. But it is that's one of the major issues that we run into when we deploy cybersecurity training to our clients, is getting them to, one, get buy-in from leadership, right? Because it has to start at the top. If everybody at the top thinks that this is just something they just have to do, and it's almost like you're penalizing your employees to make them take this training, then it's not going to work. And what we want them to understand is that this is going to be a benefit for them and for their organization, and also just it's good practice. It's almost like, we've gotten used to things like workplace safety training, where you have to learn how to pick up boxes and not lift heavy things, or have ergonomic desks. So we spend a lot of money and resources in those areas, which is a good thing, because we don't want our employees to get hurt. Well, this is just another extension of that. For me, cybersecurity awareness training is just another mandatory thing that the organization should look at and say, hey, this is important and we need to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. And, as time goes on, more compliance regulations come out, training becomes more of a requirement in all sorts of areas. So I think, it's important on its own, but I think the government will start cracking down more and more different areas as well.
Well, I just reviewed a cyber insurance policy for one of our clients, and there was a requirement clearly stated for annual training, and not just checking a box that says I took the training, but actually documenting the training, which is another thing that I like about the Breach Secure Now portal. Is if I'm a manager and I'm responsible for a bunch of people, I know who's taking the training. You can set up, I call it automatic nagging, but that's probably a negative phrase. You can set up, just automatic notifications. Hey, you still haven't done your annual training. You really need to do it. And the managers could get reports that show that, who's not doing the work, so that you can track them down. And the training is super engaging, and you can take it in small bites. You don't have to do an entire 1 hour session, because each one of the case studies are pretty short, and you can just consume them in small bites and get it done over the course of a week or however long it takes you. But I think cyber awareness training has come a long way. When we first started doing this, it was a lot of just like reading and multiple choice questions and things like that. Now they're much more relevant to what we do every day, and the micro quizzes in particular talk about things that are happening in real time. Like there was one on smishing, which is texting phishing, that talked about how cyber criminals are now sending you links on your phone, sending you texts that they want you to click on those links and put in your credentials. And most people think in terms of phishing happens via email. If I get a text that says, hey, this is from Amazon.com, you need to immediately log into your account, click on this link and verify this information, or we're going to do something horrible, whatever it is. Or your order for $60,000 worth of televisions is about ready to go out. If you don't want it, click here and log into your account and deny it. So people get fooled because they don't think of a text as being something nefarious. But that little micro training on that made it very clear that could happen, along with social media, social engineering, which is becoming more and more popular.
Yeah, absolutely.
So one of the things I've always viewed this, and when I'm talking to our clients, I explained to them that this training is just as important as like required OSHA safety training if you operate heavy equipment. You have to do it. Why do you have to do it? Well, one, it's the right thing to do to be safe, keep yourself safe, and keep your coworkers safe. But also the government, namely OSHA, will come in and check to make sure that you did the training that you were supposed to do. And so there's this period of time, I think, where between when the government is going to require it, which I think is coming up quicker and quicker. Yeah. But we have this time now that, we still need to convince really business and organization leadership that this is that important. It's just like anything else in an HR file. Like you don't have a new bus driver come to the bus depot without ever driving a bus and hand him the keys of the bus and let him go. Yep. There's check boxes in HR. So I don't know if you have any suggestions, Nicole, for messaging, to resonate with those that are on the fence about investing their time or their employees' time in the training.
Yeah, that's a great question. So when we talk to partners a lot, we always say, you need to have relevant cases of where an employee did cause a breach, or, this organization fell victim to a phishing attack and they had to close their doors, or they lost $100,000. So the problem is a lot of times organizations look at security awareness training and think, oh, that's not going to happen to me. That was, a big enterprise level organization, they're not going to come after us. We don't have anything worth value. Our data is not valuable. So I think a lot of it is explaining the risk, showing the risk. These breaches are happening. All it takes is one click for an employee to fall victim to that or give up credentials that could open the door and ultimately shut your doors. So showing risk is really important, not just explaining over and over, it's out there, they're doing this, ransomware exists. It all sounds very scary, but if you don't think it could happen to you, you're probably still not going to do anything about it. Baseline phishing assessments are a big way that we encourage our partners to show a risk. So sending your employees a phishing email and seeing if they fall for it is a good way to say, okay, they actually don't know how to spot a phishing email. They might lose us money. They might close our doors. So I think a lot of it, of course, getting buy-in at the top is showing them that there is a real risk, and all it takes is one employee to, potentially cause major damage to their business.
Yeah, and I would encourage organizations to take advantage of October as a way to because there's going to be a lot of news around cyber security awareness month, and they should take this as an opportunity to reinforce with their employees how important it is that they remain vigilant, do those simulated phishing tests, because they do have an impact. My sister-in-law works for a large law firm in San Francisco, and they did this phishing simulation, and she and I had been talking about it a few weeks before when we were visiting. And so she emailed me and said, hey, I passed, I didn't get caught, but about 48% of the other attorneys all,
wow,
clicked on the link. And so she was really proud of herself that she managed to not do that. And I wanted to point out to her, you got 48% of attorneys that have an issue. We need to work with you guys. But at least her organization, recognizes the importance of doing these things. And I think the other part of this is to make sure that when you do those simulated phishing tests, that if somebody clicks on something, take it as an opportunity not to be negative, right? Man, I can't believe you did this. You've gone through this training. What's wrong with you? But instead, hey, here's an opportunity for us to, reinforce some of the lessons that you've learned in the past. Make it a positive experience and say, this way you won't be clicking on the real one next time because you've learned what the signs are to look for. Because I think there's a tendency for employees to, if in the wrong environment, if the culture is not one that says, hey, we know we're all going to make mistakes, and we all know that we're working together to move forward. They may feel frightened or reluctant to report things, and that's the last thing you want. Because if somebody does click on something, and it's not a simulated phishing thing, but after a few minutes or of reflection, they say, I should have clicked on that thing. You want them to report that. You want them to put their hand up and say, I think I goofed up here. We need to do this, as opposed to go hide in a corner and say, I hope I didn't really mess up. And when it turns into something, it becomes difficult to track down where patient zero is.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. We always encourage, sorry, Elliot. I was just going to say, we always encourage positive reinforcement and building a strong cybersecurity awareness culture, and celebrating wins, even when they do fall for a phishing simulation. As he mentioned, it's a good learning lesson. It's a good moment to teach. We have, if they do fall for a simulated phishing campaign, they are sent to a training page where they can take additional training on phishing. So there's opportunity, if they fail, to help them see what happened. But also, when they do well too, we always encourage employees to be celebrated and really help drive a culture of cybersecurity as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, if you gamify ESS, the security score, and you reward the top 10%, for example, giving them gift cards or taking them to lunch or whatever, you're going to encourage that kind of behavior, that they're going to compete to try to take all the trainings and raise their awareness. And it's a game to them, but it's also the game you want them to be playing, because they're now helping your organization be more secure. And this goes all the way up to the board level too. A lot of times when we work with clients, they'll say, yeah, we're gonna train our employees, and then we'll point out, well, does that include your board or your board of advisors? And oh, no, those guys won't do this. And we want to encourage them to make the board aware of the issues around cybersecurity, because a lot of public companies, have recently added board members specifically to have that kind of knowledge at the board level. But a lot of private companies, the board is just as accountable to the shareholders to make sure that they're doing everything that they can to keep management on their toes. And sometimes managers need that kind of oversight to be told, yeah, what are you doing about cybersecurity? It's even happening with some of the nonprofit boards that I've served on, where they want to know, they want me on the board because they're like, oh, you're the cybersecurity expert. And I'm like, well, there ain't no such thing, but I will take it as a compliment. But they want to know what they don't know. And I think that's a good thing. I'm seeing that kind of behavior happen at those organizations. Makes me feel like we're, the reality of the situation is what it is. And how we're now in that 1 degree or 2 degrees of separation. Everybody knows somebody who either got hit with a breach or ransomware, or they know of somebody who did. So it's no longer something that you can just say, well, I've never heard anybody get hit, so I can ignore it. It's not something that can happen to me.
So there
definitely
is a little
way more
bit
prevalent.
Of breaking news, as you were mentioning, Louis, that we're going to see more and more news come out about October being Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And we've got a proclamation from the White House, and the theme for Cybersecurity Awareness Month is "Do Your Part, Be Cyber Smart." But they also launched a comprehensive website, stopransomware.gov, that I'm just checking out right now. That looks like it is a good centralized location for information from the government about ransomware attacks and what to do and what not to do.
That's a great resource.
Yeah, and the other thing that companies who are hesitant to implement these kind of programs, what they should keep in mind is that this can differentiate your business to your suppliers or your customers. If you go to them and say, hey, we have a very robust and active cybersecurity awareness program in our business, so you never have to worry about us becoming a weak link in your supply chain. We're not going to be the company that can't deliver on our, commitments to, provide you the products that you're purchasing from us because we get hit with ransomware and we can't work for a week or 2 weeks or even longer. We're taking steps to prevent that from happening. Can you prevent everything from happening? No, but you can demonstrate that, you're a step above the competition in that you are taking it seriously and you're doing all the things that you need to do. Just like, going back to workplace safety, a lot of the workplace safety laws that we have in place now were driven by large customers who wanted their suppliers to make sure that they were doing things the right way, and they wanted proof of that. So, that's another avenue that I think we're going to start to see pressure coming from, not just federal or state level legislation, but big suppliers like the Costco's and the Sam's Clubs and Home Depots of the world saying, we want to make sure that our suppliers are doing everything that they can to improve their cyber hygiene and meet a minimum level of protection so that we know we're not at risk by doing business with them.
Yeah.
Time to take some questions, guys.
So yeah, if anybody out there has any questions about what we've been talking about or any comments, feel free to use the Q&A button to let us know. We're here as a resource. Obviously, if you think of something down the road, if you're one of our clients, feel free to reach out to your account manager. They can loop me or Jeff or Elliot in to help answer the question if they can't. But if you're not one of our clients and you want more information about cyber awareness training and what's available out there, there are some free resources. They're not as slick and as awesome as Breach Secure Now, I will say, which is really designed for organizations that want a continuous learning environment, not just a one-time, hey, let's get this done so we can check that box and move on. It's important that we all work together to. Somebody's thanking Corey for doing some work fixing their computer. That's great. We'll take any shout outs in that way too. We love our team and they love working for our clients. But if you aren't a client and you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We're happy to have that conversation and show you what's available and how you can implement a cyber security awareness program that really works and isn't just something that you do because you have to. Any parting thoughts? Nicole, Jeff?
Thank you for having me. It's been great to be here. And, we're looking forward to Cybersecurity Awareness Month. I think there will be a lot of conversation online, on LinkedIn, all over with some cybersecurity tips. So it's a great time to get some free information and learn a little bit more about cybersecurity.
Thanks, Nicole, for joining us today.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank
you so much.
Nicole.
And for those of you that don't know, which is all of you because you didn't know, Nicole just recently got married. So we wish her a happy marriage and enjoy everything. And let's talk some more down the road, gents.
Thank you.
All right.
Great. Thanks,
Take
everyone.
care.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.